fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh. I have no fucks left. No, no. So fuck off. I'm busy. Bye-bye. Piss off. Not sorry. Don't cry.
You get it.
She's not listening to you. She's freaking out.
Well, get the busy bee. You want your busy bee. Get your busy bee.
You get the busy bee. I need to trim her whiskers. It's in the crate.
Where is it?
It's in the crate.
I have no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh.
Greetings, salutations, welcome one and all to No Fucks Left, a new episode with your hostess, with the mostess, Landon Shaw, and that is moi. Welcome one and all. How are you all doing? I have to tell you, I'm actually, given everything that we're going through, having a really kind of good week. I was going to come in and kind of do my typical rant monologue, and then the last couple of days have been really lovely. So I was like, you know what? Screw that. I have a fucking amazing guest in Mr. Arbender Robinson, who I am very proud to say is basically like my BFF. I've known him and all the people that I regularly interact with in my life. I have known Arbender the longest, and I am so proud of that fact. So I'm so excited he's on the show. Wait until you hear his credits and this interview. It's so much fun. And then, of course, with season 3 of Traders, the TV game show ending, I had to do a Trader Talk. I just had to. So we got that, and that's it, really. I'm going to go right now. Yep. See, I'm going to go right now to Word of the Day. That theme song just kind of pushes me right in there. And the Word of the Day has to be, and I think this is so funny that I love this thing so much now. It's got to be TikTok. I love TikTok. I'll be the first to admit it. TikTok, I will proudly do a commercial for you talking about how for years, because I think my wife started using it during the pandemic, like maybe right at the pandemic. And I was like, nope, not going to get into it. Nope, I'm so overwhelmed. I already have too much. And I really stayed away for a long time. And then I went on, as you all know, because I've said it nonstop, a couple of weeks ago, and I am loving it. I really am. And I want to give, well, let me close out Word of the Day first, and then I'm going to give a shout out. I promise. So the Word of the Day is TikTok. And all of you in the No Fucks Left pod community, you know what to do. I want you to yell, shout, scream, do a live, use an effect, mash that screen to get those hearts and those likes. Every time you hear the Word of the Day, TikTok, in today's episode, go crazy, be part of the NFL pod community, and have a great time. And that is our Word of the Day. So really quick, before we get into Trader Talk, I just want to give a special shout out. One person I promised I would do a shout out last week, and I'm so sorry I forgot because it was so late at night. So Leah, you were so kind. I met you last week, right before I was recording the last episode, and I told you I'd give you a shout out. And then in the last couple of days, I have met Tilly, Ophelia, Kay, Fritz, and I've had just a great time. I really enjoy going live. I'm having such a good time. I'm jumping into panels. I'll tell you the best thing it's doing for me is I'm getting such amazing affirmation from it. The people, at least that I'm in contact with right now, I know it could be very different, and I've already seen the different. I'm just going to focus on the good. The people I am seeing right now are amazing. I feel like I finally have a community. I feel like I'm finally seen. It's intoxicating. I can see why so many people fell in love with it. I really can. It's been great for me. And I love the platform, and I love what I can do with it. And I'm going to use it a lot. I promise you, I'm going to be on there a lot. So if you're curious, follow me. I am Landon the Artist, and I don't want to give my username away because I just locked it in and I don't like it, so I'm changing it as soon as I'm able to. So I don't want to give you that yet, just because it's going to change. And I don't know what it's going to change to because I don't know what's available. But you can definitely find me at Landon the Artist. I pretty much assume I'm going live almost every day because I'm enjoying that. And then, I'm posting a lot. I'm having a great time. Shout out to all the kind people I've met. Keep coming and seeing me. And, let's all enjoy TikTok. I love TikTok, and I'm happy to do an ad for them. I remember seeing those ads when it looked like they were going to be gone, where they were really showcasing the people that made, they're living on TikTok and businesses. And now I can see why, believe me. And it's something that I might have to explore. More about that next week. But so I will do an ad for TikTok. I will sing their praises to the cows come home because I'm having a great time. So thank you one and all for being a part of my community, and please continue to be.
Traitor is what she said. Faithful is what I am. Traitors and faithful too is who. Intrigue, drama, and Alan coming to. A castle in Scotland is the seat of.
All right, so I know when we did Trader Talk the first couple of times, I told you that it would be spoiler free, but this one definitely has spoilers because it was the season finale, which I must admit it kind of snuck up on us. It was kind of a surprise. We went to Peacock to go see today's episode, knowing it was Thursday, and it said it was the finale, and I was like, oh my God, all right. So we definitely have to watch. And let me just tell you, I'll kind of jump to the ending. I won't give away the ending yet. I'll jump to the ending and say, I am so happy that with who won, meaning that now I am going to reveal the Faithfuls won. They got rid of all the traitors. I feel like that was a first. No. Actually, no. Season 2, I think, Trishelle and this other guy got all the traitors out too. But this was so fun to see the final 4 just get all the traitors out, and you're sitting there at the end knowing that they did it. And then the joy of seeing each of them discover that they are indeed going to win this money was just, oh my God. It was so what I needed to see in the midst of all this craziness. So our winners are Gabby, Dylan, Dolores, and Ivar, and they got the last traitor out, Brittany. So let me just start with the episode. First of all, Alan Cummings' outfit. This one took the cake. It was gorgeous. It was stunning. I was so jealous. It was this beautiful, like crushed purple velvet suit with just, oh my God, this gorgeous kind of white blouse top with lots of bling. There were jewels everywhere. Everyone was very shiny in this episode. Gabby looked fierce. I loved Dolores's red. She wore a very kind of sequiny outfit for, I think it was kind of just for the daytime. And then she changed, of course, for the round table. Everyone changed once again. Even Ivar looked really good. But Alan Cumming was outstanding. Again, one of my favorite things. Although this season, my favorite thing was Gabby. From the very first episode, I fell so in love with her. I just thought she was the greatest, and I was so excited to see her win. She even said tonight that if she won, she was planning on getting married. And then I was like, wait a minute, I follow her on TikTok. I know that she just got married not too long ago. So then I was like, oh, wait a minute, did she win? And then I thought, no, I kind of knew the story of how that marriage happened. So I wish her and Robbie all the best. Gabby, I adore you. I would love to talk to you on my podcast. So if you ever want to come on, please let me know. And then Dylan, I dare say Dylan is, I think, maybe my new favorite Efron. Because he's just, what a sweet, nice boy. Like, the parents did a really good job raising both of them. You would definitely want him to be your son or hanging around. Just a very nice guy. And let me tell you, one of the smartest players I've ever seen. He just seemed to always be in on everything and almost 2 steps ahead of everyone. He was really, really smart. Such a gamer. And I loved him. My wife and I both, the professor, my wife, we both said, we hope that Gabby and Dylan win, no matter how this goes. And if they win, we'll be very excited and very pleased. And sure enough, they did. Ivar, you were great. I have to say, I am so shocked you made it to the end, though. No offense. I just thought for sure you would have been gone like right at the beginning of the season. So you hung on there and good for you. I'm sure you don't need the money. But it was fun to see. And Dolores, I kind of ebbed and flowed with you. There were times that I just thought you were so funny, just how direct you were and everything. It was a good ending to Traitors. It was such a great season. I'm so sad that it's over because this one was the first season we watched kind of live because we discovered it not too long ago. And y'all, just so you know how big of fans we are of Traitors. We have watched now every season of US, every season of UK, and all of season 1 of Australia. We've started season 2 of Australia. And that just leaves New Zealand, which I'm sure we will get to. It is such a good show. I didn't think we would love it nearly as much as we do, but I think the thing I love the most is the strategy. I love how the gamers are so set on how to do this, and they think they have it all figured out, but what they always fail to recognize is human emotions. When they're doing like the Survivor games and Big Brother and stuff like that, I don't know that the human emotion comes in as much because after a while you get so used to playing with all these other contestants and knowing that you're on TV and you're kind of performing. And I think that Traitors does a really good job of, if it seems kind of over performative or over the top, suddenly there's just moments of real, honest to God, just sheer genuine authenticity and honesty and vulnerability that I just don't think most reality shows capture. So I hope Traitors doesn't get too big and start to become really like over the top. I fear that there's a danger there. I can kind of see it happening. Like we even kind of see it in Australia, season 2. Season 1, all the contestants were just regular, average Joes, not, reality show competition contestants or influencers. They just were there to play a game. And it was really riveting. And US was like that too. And so was UK to a certain extent. And then when you kind of start to get a little bit bigger and you get some larger personalities, it can kind of, get heightened a bit, which I understand. I get it. Like, I know that's the whole shtick. But I hope Traitors just stays right in that sweet spot because I think it's great. So congrats to Gabby, Dylan, Dolores, Ivar, Brittany. I got to be honest, I was kind of hoping you didn't win. I'm sorry. I just thought you were going to be cooked the minute Danny asked you. And then when you said yes, which I understand why you said yes, I guess, but you had to have known that it was either going to be murdered that night or you were going to probably get taken out. I'm shocked that you didn't get taken out at the next round table because I thought for sure Dylan was going to lock in on you. And he did, obviously. So I'm glad the Faithfuls won. I always kind of root secretly for the Faithfuls, unless they're all really annoying. And then we see. But I love the show. Alan, I love you. I'm sad that this will be my last Traitor talk for a while. Maybe once the UK version is available here in the US, we'll reboot it and just see. But congrats to all the winners. And I'm so excited with this season. I thought it was great. And I am a Trader fan for life. And I am a Gabby and Dylan Efron fan for life as well. I'm following them both on TikTok already, and I can't wait. So let's close the vault on Trader Talk for season 3. Rather than do a typical introduction for Arbender, because it's so hard to really talk about him, because again, I met him as we were just starting off as young actors making our way in the world. We performed together at Dutch Apple Dinner Theater in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You'll hear the entire story, so I'm not even going to go into it, but it's very funny. And then I instantly just was like, oh my God, he's so amazing. I knew that Broadway was definitely in his future. There was no question. He was one of those talents where you were just like, yeah, you're going to make it. And I'm so proud to say that he has. And I just want to say this one thing. I've had the pleasure now, and honestly the privilege, of working with and meeting some of the greatest people in our industry. Obviously talking on this podcast, but then in my real life, I've been able to work with some outstanding people. Arbender, I think, takes the cake, though, for the most humble person who doesn't have to be. Meaning, you will hear how many Broadway shows he's done. You will hear all the things he has accomplished, which is a lot. I'm just telling you. And he is so young still, so I can only imagine what's ahead. And yet, every time I saw him when I was in New York for my auditions that were not anything at his level, he had the ability to make me feel like I was the most important person in the room, and that the job I was about to audition for, which was the most important thing ever. And it seemed like it was important to him. I know it was, but like, he literally made me feel that way. And it's just such a gift. He has an amazing gift. Not only is he so remarkably talented, but he is, without a doubt, one of the kindest, most humble, just genuine, gentle souls I have ever met. And I am so grateful to have him in my life. And this was a remarkable interview. In lieu of a formal introduction, I'm just going to go through all of his Broadway credits in chronological order, which will give you a pretty good idea of just the kind of talent he is. So we start with Lion King. Then we have Hairspray, The Little Mermaid, Hair, Ragtime, The Book of Mormon. Then he did Hair as a revival not long after that original production. Beautiful, the Carole King musical. Les Miserables, the anniversary production. Shuffle Along with Audra McDonald. And then In Transit. And so those are his Broadway credits. Currently, he is one of the artistic directors with Broadway Artists Alliance, and he's a talent agent, which we also talk about in the interview. So he's all of that, and he's one of my very close friends. So without any further ado, please sit back and enjoy my conversation with Arbender Robinson.
And boom. Oh wait, there I am.
There you are.
Oh my goodness, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I am doing extremely well. Oh my goodness, it's good to see your face.
What is that backdrop?
This is false. It is not the background.
Well, I know. I've been to your house. Like, come on.
The other day I was on a meeting and I was in a hotel room and I was, no matter where I position this camera, I was like, you can see my bed. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. And like, if there's a child on this, I don't want any problems. So I was like, AI, give me a fancy office with a sunny window and like whatever. And AI created this, but let me remove it just because like we're here. It's just us. And
yeah, it's me. I've been in your house. I've slept in your house.
I know
slept
that
in my house
house.
many times for, extended periods of times. No background. There we go.
AI AI gave you a great office though.
AI helped me out. AI helped me out. Thank goodness for that. So, how are you?
I am so good. I've been looking so forward to this. And God, yeah, I am so excited to be talking to you. Ladies and
Welcome.
gentlemen, my guest is the fabulous Mr. Arbender Robinson.
Hello, hello, hello. Hi, everyone. Yay, I'm here. It's me.
I
Thank you for
know.
being fabulous. I appreciate that. You make me feel good.
Well, you always make me feel good. And it was weird because like as you know, I started doing this show and I reached out to my network and I had you right away on my list, but I was like, well, like, he's one of my closest friends ever. I don't want to start right out of the gate with him. Like that would just be weird.
Oh,
But now like I feel like the show is going. And so you're coming in right after Daisy Egan. Daisy was
here we
my
go.
last
There we
guest.
go.
So
Oh my goodness. Hold on. All
yeah.
of
Oh,
so yeah, yeah.
it was
Oh,
such a
yeah.
great talk. So,
Oh,
what I do, my friend, is I always start with kind of going back to the beginning, which I think is going to be really fun with you because Arbender and I, and we'll get to this part of our story, met
have known each other forever.
ever. And he was just a young actor on the way. But I don't know a lot about young Arbender, like little baby Arbender growing up. Now I
Well,
know you're
hold
from
on. Hold on. I don't mean to cut you off. It's because stories about we'll talk about it, but stories about young Arbender, you don't know this information because I rarely ever shared it. You know what I mean?
right.
Like I rarely ever shared it. So yeah, we'll talk. We'll
We'll
talk.
talk. And obviously always to the extent that you're comfortable with. But I in trying to do this show, wanted to talk to, artists and my peers and colleagues. But I am very intrigued and have always been intrigued by not necessarily what led you to be in theater, but like where did you come from? What was it that sculpted you into the artist that you are today? Because especially for me, as we know, I'm going through a major change. I am really doing a lot of this connecting the dots and seeing a lot of these things, who I am and kind of the tools that were always there had been there since I was young. I just didn't know it. And so they're really coming out in a very tremendous, beautiful way. And I am having to obviously deal with some trauma and shit like that.
We all
But
are. We all
well,
are.
we
We
all
all
are.
Oh my
But
goodness.
so to the extent that you're comfortable with, I want to say first, you grew up in like Joliet Plainfield, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay. That's what I
Like
thought.
smack dab between the two.
Right.
There was this small town called Crest Hill, Illinois, that no one had ever heard of. Crest Hill, Illinois is actually where I grew up. But if people ask, I'm like, Plainfield, people know. Joliet, people know. Chicago, 45 minutes south, people know. But when
Yeah.
I say Crest Hill, if you're not from Crest Hill, you're like, I don't know where that is. But yeah, Crest Hill, Illinois. That's where I was born and raised. My parents are still there now. I was just there
Wow.
2 weeks ago, sitting on the couch, cuddling with them. So there we go.
And
Yeah.
are they still in your childhood home?
Yeah, well, so the house that they're in right now is the house that we moved to when I was in grade seven,
Wow.
seventh grade. And here's the crazy thing about that is that there were two schools. There was Richland Elementary School and then like Manji Junior High School or whatever. And we were rival schools. In fact, Richland was District 88A and Manji was District 88. The schools are almost down the street from each other. The towns are separated by like one little road. And my entire life, kindergarten through seventh grade, I went to Richland and we hated Manji. And in seventh grade, my parents moved a few blocks down the road from our apartment into a house, and it put me in the new school district, which is kind of hell. So they let me finish my seventh grade year at Richland, where I was since kindergarten. But for my eighth grade year, my last year, I had to go to the other school, the
Oh,
rival school. It was like the worst thing in the world. I was like, wait, my last year, I'm going to graduate with these strangers at this school that I don't even like, District 88. I'm 88. It's like this whole thing. So like it was that eighth grade year, oh my goodness, it was hell. Talk about trauma. I was just like, what? And then like playing sports and seeing, I'm like I'm talking so much, playing
no,
sports,
go.
seeing all of my friends on the other team, like on the rival team. I was just like, this sucks. I hated it. I hated it. I hated it. But something really awesome happened. I was failing math class. I was failing math. I was like, I didn't care. I didn't want to be in this school. Like, I didn't like these people. Like, as a kid, I don't know if you did this, but as a kid, the rival schools, you concoct all these stories in your head about like, I hate them, they're evil, they're mean, like all these things. And now I'm at this school. So like, I didn't like these people. I didn't know them, but I didn't like these people. So I'm failing math, and Mrs. Beverly was the teacher. And she wanted to find ways for me to get extra credit in math, because I shouldn't be failing, because I was a straight A student at my old school, failing at my new school. So she gave me this option of getting extra credit. And she goes, listen, there's this is going to tell you how old I am. There's this new thing coming out called DARE. This like drug awareness resistance education thing. And we're going to present it to the entire school. And the way we're going to present this idea to the school is we're going to do a play about this person that kind of loses his friends and like starts experimenting with drugs. And then like, people step in to help them. Yeah. So listen, for extra credit, I'm going to ask you to be in this play. And I was like, ugh. So like, I had to be in this stupid play in front of the student body to talk about drug awareness, and education, whatever. But that was the link that made me appreciate being at that school. And it was like turned it around. It allowed me to pass math class, and it showed me, oh my goodness, this acting thing is kind of cool. So like all of those things happened in 8th grade when, at this school that I hated, from this teacher named Mrs. Beverly. Singing I was already doing, but acting way, hadn't done it. 8th grade. So there we go.
And done. Do you remember what kind of the student body was made up, like the diversity? Because again, I know Joliet very well. I know Plainfield very well. And I know that Joliet is home. Arbender is laughing hilariously. I know that Joliet is home to a prison, right? Yes. One of the more famous ones.
The time we had two. We had Joliet Prison and we had Statesville Prison.
Yes.
Which, like, pretty much in my backyard. Oh yes.
Oh yeah. So what was the student body like? Because I worked at I don't think, maybe I told you this, but in Romeoville, I worked at the Philip Lynch Theater, which was at this university, small little university. And I was impressed with the diversity, but that was well into my 20s, So what was it like?
So when I went to Richland, the original school, District 88A, the one I liked, pretty diverse. Pretty diverse. But when I moved to Manji, keep in mind, part of the reason that my parents moved there was because as a family, like financially, we had leveled up.
Yeah.
So we moved out of our 2-bedroom apartment with, it was both of my parents, my brother, myself, my sister, and my female cousin, all in a 2-bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 2-bedroom apartment, right? We had leveled up. So we were now moving into, a 4-bedroom house.
Wow.
So we leveled up financially, but that leveling up financially put me in a school where I think when I went there, I'm going to be generous and say there were maybe 6 Black people, right? Okay. Keep in mind, 3 of them would have been me, my sister, and my cousin. So yeah, it was, diverse was not
non-existent.
Was not part of the equation. No, I was definitely living. I mean, thank goodness we can speak freely here. I was definitely living now in the white neighborhood. In fact, now that I say that, whenever we had to sell things for school, like candy bars or we're selling for the book club, we would actually, when I went to Richland, we would actually go to the white neighborhood, the Manji neighborhood, to sell all the stuff because they had the money to buy it. So it was, not only was I moving to a school district that I didn't like in 8th grade, I was also moving to the white neighborhood as a Black family. So yes,
wow,
diversity was something. Yes.
So that being said, how much did that play into your life? Were you dealing with racism? Were you dealing with bullying? Were you dealing with that back then?
Oh, of course, of course. I mean,
Yeah,
here's the thing. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, here's the thing. Me as a human, bullying has always been something that I dealt with, right?
sure.
Uh, you met me before I was, this size. I was smaller, and even before that, I was tiny. I was this tiny, tiny, tiny kid singing songs, running around trying to play basketball in elementary school. So like bullying and like teasing was always something. And then even though when I went to Richland, that school was more diverse, racism is something that was always part of the fabric of my life. I mean, one, I'm Black, so how many Black people have never experienced racism? But where I lived in Illinois, racism was a huge issue. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, still to this day, there are clear divides of roads where certain demographics of people live,
Yeah.
and we comment on that demographic of people in different ways. I mean, think about it. The neighborhood that I moved to growing up, we called it the white neighborhood. Like that
Yeah.
is what we called it, right? So racism was part of it, right? Positive or negative on both sides of the coin.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
go we made jokes about like don't step on their grass in the white neighborhood because they'll chase you with a shotgun. I mean, like these are conversations we had even as little kids, and we as I'm older, I realized that was awful. This is so tragic. But
Right.
it was just a fact of the world that we lived in. Like
Right.
that's what it was. So
Yeah.
did I have to deal with that? Oh, hell yeah. I mean, my first time touching a freaking golf club was in 8th grade gym class. Like, and I failed because these kids have been playing freaking golf since day one. Here I go to this school in 8th grade, and in gym, we're playing golf. In our final, you had a bucket of balls, and then you had a bucket that was so far away. And I think you had like a 7-iron, a little chip. To like chip these balls and make them jump up and fall into a friggin' bucket. And I was like, I've never even touched one of these metal clubs. Like, what the hell? And now I have to get a ball. Fuck it. I can't figure it out. I have no fail.
What kind of progressive school did you go to that was doing golf? I mean, I went to a public school in Illinois. We didn't do golf.
So here's the thing. We weren't really doing golf. Really, I just think that our gym teacher at the time, Mr. Howell, right? Not a fan. I think he was just being lazy and just wanted us to hit balls. Like,
Oh, Jesus.
because there was we weren't hitting them into like a hole. We weren't on a golf course. We were right outside on the football field, just like swinging clubs. But like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh my God.
I know how to hold a golf club, but that's about all I learned. So
I think the funniest thing about your previous story though was I'm and not to be rude, but I'm imagining you playing basketball, and it's almost as funny as me trying to play basketball because I did try out for the basketball team too.
And the whole time out of the corner of my eye, I was just looking at the cheerleaders being like, I would rather do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, whatever. So,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
So
I love it. So how often, because again, I know exactly where you live, been through there many times, know the drive to Chicago, right down 55. How
That's
often
it.
did you guys get into the city as a family or as just yourself?
As I didn't start really exploring the city until like my senior year of high school. Once I started driving, then it was like, let's go into the city. We only went into the city for like really important things, or like if for some odd reason, someone flew in to see us, or we were flying out, it's either Midway or O'Hare. Otherwise, we would go past the city to go to like Six Flags Great America. But like, we weren't hanging out in the city. That was, too many people. Keep in mind, Crest Hill was a small, almost farming town. So like, yeah, Chicago was the big city. No, we weren't going there. No way.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy to go back now and see how developed like Bolingbrook is and all those towns? Like, I mean, it really extends out now.
Bolingbrook, Naperville, Plainfield, Lamont, even Lockport, like all of them. Yeah, it's different. Even Crest Hill and Joliet have expanded. Like there are these huge areas of like Joliet, right outside of Crest Hill, that used to just be trees.
Yeah.
And now it's like huge housing complexes and shopping centers and all kinds of things. I mean, whenever I go back, I don't tell my parents this, but I spend the first day before I go and see my parents. I spend the first day just driving
Yes.
and driving and driving and driving and just looking and
Yeah.
kind of trying to look at where something is now and then kind of remember what was there, and then like if I had ever experienced it, like it's wild. It's
Yeah.
completely so yeah.
Ah, I love
Long
it.
answer,
So
long answer to a short question.
no, no, no. Hey, this is a casual conversation between two great friends, and I'm loving it.
I love it.
So I know you obviously went to Viterbo.
Mhm.
How did that get on your radar? Because again, growing up just shy of the Wisconsin border, because I grew up in Northwest Illinois there. Um, Viterbo was kind of on my list, but I wasn't really scouted by them. They didn't really appear at Illinois High School Theater Fest or anything. So
Yeah.
I remember hearing about Viterbo first from you, and I was like, oh my God, I wish I would have known about that amazing theater department at the time. So how did that get on your map?
You know what? I'll tell you what. A mistake. It was a huge mistake. No, I had never heard of the school. I had never heard of this school.
Right.
And randomly one day out of the blue, they called me on the phone. And I vaguely remember it was Sister Marie Leon LaCroix. She's since passed away, but she was one of the founders of that program. She called me on the phone and she's like, hey, based on your test scores and your interests and all that kind of, you take those stupid tests and check off all these boxes.
Yeah.
All this stuff. Based on your test scores and interests, we have money for you at this school. Have you thought about what you're doing for school? And at that point, like all of my school plans just really weren't working out in a way that made any sense. And part of it is at that point, the only person who was at college at that point was my brother, and he was playing football at St. Xavier. So like as a family, we really didn't have that ability to really know how to navigate that whole college application process and all that kind of stuff. And the counselors at school were whatever. And I mean, it was like, so I was doing the best that I could. I looked at Lewis University, and of course everyone looked at Northwestern and Northern and West, like all these things, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And the school called me, Viterbo University. I kept calling it Viterbo, but Viterbo University. And I was like, oh goodness. And they didn't have any of the programs I wanted. They didn't have a pre-law program. They didn't have a journalism program. They didn't have a good creative writing program, but they had this theater program. And I was like, all right. So because I was late in the application process when they called me, I immediately had to drive up there and audition. So I remember hopping in the car with my parents, stopping at Barnes and Noble and picking up a monologue book. And driving up to this school. The only songs I really knew was Close Every Door from Joseph and a few, random songs that I did in shows in high school. But I was never one of those kids that was like, I know my monologues and my songs and my 16 bar cuts and all that malarkey. I didn't know all that stuff.
Wow.
So I'm driving to this school, learning a monologue, even though I was calling it a monochrome, learning a monologue in the backseat of the car, 5 hours away, drive up to the school, next day, get there, audition for the school, apply to the school, find housing, all of this crap in one day because this nun called me on the phone. And then I went back home, and a few weeks later, I packed up my car. I was driving a little red Dodge Omni. Oh my goodness, that my father and I bought at a junkyard and put back together. Oh my goodness. So driving this jalopy car up to the school full of all my stuff, crying, listening to Newsies, the Newsies soundtrack. Little Newsies tape, crying, when it gets to Patrick, darling, that whole nun section of crying, thinking of my baby sister. And I went to the school and majored in theater, and it was the best decision that I didn't make for myself in my life.
So you mean to tell me that you had no intentions in high school of majoring in theater? You were going to do law or writing or wow.
And never, just because I didn't think that just because my experience doing theater and doing music, it was fun and I loved it, but to think that I could go to college and honestly make a career of it, that wasn't possible.
Get the fuck out of here.
So even when I met you, when I tell you that I was looking up to you and like learning from you, like I was looking up to you and learning from you because
Shut
you,
up.
no, I'm telling you, because you were doing the thing. Like you would sit and tell all these stories about these places you worked and all this stuff, and like watching you play like, all this stuff. Like I was learning because,
Wow.
you know, I got really good training, but, you know, it was years later before I truly realized, holy smokes, this is what I'm actually going to do for my career. Like it was a long time before I fully believed that.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is why when you're like, I don't know much about your childhood, and I was like, yeah, I didn't really tell many stories because really, like, I shut everything out and I was just laser focused and learning and learning and learning and learning and learning because I lived in a, now we have a name for it, but I lived in a full state of imposter syndrome where I was like, is this even where I'm supposed to be? Like, I'm not as good as these people. How can I figure this out? So like I was really genuinely learning, focusing because I
Wow.
couldn't afford to fail. And I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So yeah, there we go. Done.
Well, so I'm really curious though, how did that nun is so you if you didn't have any plans necessarily to go to Viterbo, how did she even get your info? Like, do you know?
Yeah, I do know. So you know when you take like the PACT and like all those tests,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you like check all these boxes of different interests, and then you take like that the Myers-Briggs, and it's like, what are
Yeah.
you and all this kind of stuff. You know, I was checking all the boxes, and sure, I was in choir, and sure, I did the musicals and the plays in high school because of Mrs. Beverly in 8th grade, right? So I did all that stuff, and these little profiles were saying, oh, you should be this, you should be, you know, a psychologist, or you should be this, or a teacher, or an actor. Or, that's just what it said. So I just checked the,
Wow.
but like, yeah,
I am astounded by this. Wow.
yeah.
Only because, like, obviously, when I think of you, I can't see you doing anything else. Like, I just can't. You're just so brilliant at what you do. And I, as you know, since the age of 5 was like, I'm doing theater. That's it. And at that point knew nothing was going to deter me. And so
Right.
because I know you and because we mesh so well, I kind of just thought that was your story too. That's
No,
insane.
no. But I think that's also why you were doing the thing. So I was booking shows and doing shows and playing roles and doing that stuff, but you were doing the full thing. You know, you were starting theater companies, and you were
Yeah.
producing and directing and like writing stuff and creating and managing. You were actually doing the thing,
Yeah.
the business. And I was just sitting in the back watching and learning and being like, how do you even figure that out? I don't know if you remember this, but one of like we had a late night conversation. I think at this time we were
Oh
at
yeah.
we're at
Yes.
Dutch, and you were literally talking about this idea of a theater company that you had
Yeah.
that you I was like, how does a human even think on that level? It's like a whole company, and you were like, it'll do this and seats here and all this stuff, and it'll be in this town. And I was like, I I don't even know. Like I
I
just
think
want to
you're
go
talking about the Elgin space. I was really,
probably.
yeah, I was really focused on wanting to do a theater in Elgin.
So
So that being said, I think it was almost always destiny that you and I were going to meet. First of all, we missed each other by 1 year because I did summer music theater at Western Illinois University in 91. You did it in like 92 or 93, right?
92 or 93, yeah.
Okay, so we missed each other there, but worked with my amazing professors because that's where I went to school. Ray
Yep.
Gabika, shout out to Ray. Still,
Like,
oh my God,
yeah,
love Ray.
yeah. Best costume designer in
Ever.
the world. Taught me how to wear costumes. We'll talk about that in a whole
Yes,
different conversation. But like
yes.
taught me everything about how to make costumes work for me as an actor, which became one of these things that costume designers, even here in New York on Broadway, appreciate when I ask them questions about, you know, when you were creating this costume, what were you envisioning? And like, how can I work that into my character choices and stuff? Like, hello, Ray Gabika. There we go. Thank
Yeah.
you so
Oh
yeah.
my God, yeah. I could go on and on about Ray and just everyone. The training at Western was really
Right.
quite spectacular.
Yeah.
but here I am, as you said, knowing that I wanted to do this. So I get into the professional realm. I'm working. And the story of how I get to Dutch Apple Broadway Palm is quite funny. I'm auditioning in Chicago at one of those like combined auditions, like Midwest or whatever. It's
Yep.
dinner theater. And I meet Will, and he says, okay, I really want you to be in State Fair, but that's like 2 productions away. So right now I can hire you immediately to do Will Rogers Follies and then Funny Girl. Now, I don't know either of those shows. And as we all know, I am not really an ensemble member, like at all. I'm just not. Like some people are really good at it, others aren't. I'm one of those.
Right.
But first day of rehearsal, I get there. And who should I meet but the wonderful Arbender Robinson? And this is how we met. We're going over to a pile of boots to try on boots. Remember, it was the first rehearsal.
Oh my goodness, Will Rogers Follies.
Oh shit.
I remember.
And so I am scared to death. I've never done ensemble. And I go immediately to Arbender, and the first thing he said to me, and I will never forget this in all my life. We had to try on, I think, wasn't it one red and one blue, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you
Because
go
that
yeah.
fit shrunk. Yep.
Yeah. So we're trying on boots because they've clearly done the show before. And you just went, you said, I have to fit my shoe into someone's fucking old boots because these things look so distressed. Who has worn these? I have to stick my
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, you are my new best friend. I love it. Because I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wait, I have to put on these. So we immediately we're in this like warehouse. We put on these boots. We find a hat. Then the choreographer, who was no nonsense, that guy, Ray Ogden, I think was his name or something.
That's it. I was going to ask you if you remember the name, but once you said it's like Ogden, boom, done. Yes, that's it.
So he was no nonsense. He's like, okay, we're going to start right here. And I was just like, and then here's the kicker. We're on stairs. We're already dancing on stairs in the first rehearsal.
Right. That's right.
So I am freaking out because again, not a dancer, a mover. Yes. Not a dancer. So now you want me to put on boots with no grips on stairs and act like I know what the fuck I'm doing. And I was a disaster. Disaster.
You were
I know. The only person that got me through that entire experience was you.
Oh.
So it's funny that you said you were kind of looking at me. I was looking at you going, okay, he is going to be the greatest thing to come of this experience. So I'm just going to wing it, just going to get through every rehearsal. And I again, I don't know if you know this, but I mean, I was berated by Ray. I was treated like such crap by him because he was clearly upset that I was in the show. Yes. And I don't blame him. I mean, to this day, I never got that.
I feel like he made a comment about it.
Oh yeah.
Right. That you were only there because of the other shows.
State Fair. Yeah.
I vaguely remember there being some about that you were only there because you had to be in these other shows. Yeah.
Well, and at the end of that rehearsal, he just went, who cast you? And I said, Will Prather, your boss. And he went, figures, I never would have cast you. And yeah, that's how I was supposed to continue the rest of my process, was knowing he would never have cast me.
Correct. Wow.
But thank God I had you and a couple of other, great actors, because we were the cowboy quartet or whatever. Like, I don't even know what the fuck we were, but
Wranglers. The Wranglers. Yep. Oh my goodness.
So you and I obviously started clicking, hung out all the time, every dinner, after the shows, like you said, we were constantly talking. And then you say you're going to move to New York all of a sudden. And that was right after Will Rogers Follies. So what happened there for you? I know that by this point, you haven't really done a lot. I remember, like, you did some summer stock, obviously. You did Dutch Apple. Had you done Disney by this point or no?
No, not yet.
Okay.
In fact, funny, that move to New York got delayed because we did Will Rogers Follies, and then something happened where I then got cast again to go to Broadway Palm to do this like review type show called Yesterdays.
Okay.
So I went back down to Broadway Palm and did that. And then while I was there, I drove across the state over to do like the SETC's
Yeah.
conference, right? So drove there, did that, and then got hired by Disney.
Wow.
Disney. So I left Broadway Palm and drove directly to Orlando.
Nice.
And ended up working there. So then like that whole move to New York then got delayed like another 2 years.
Okay.
Which was the best thing ever because it gave me more time to get solid in my training, like my skill set. I got hired by that Voices of Liberty group at Disney World, which helped me improve my musicality.
Mm-hmm.
I then did a couple shows, small shows here and there at Seaside Music Theater. So then when it came time for me to go to New York, I was just more prepared. I think I would have failed had I gone then that early. But getting those other experiences under there, and this is just me again, just allowing the universe to take me wherever it needs to take me, and just accepting it with joy and being like, I don't know what I'm doing or where I am, but here I am, you know. It just put me in the right place at the right time. So when I finally did get to New York, one, I knew a few people there. Two, I just had more things under my belt, and I had a music skill set that kind of set me apart a little bit. And then New York, once I got here, New York kind of worked in my favor because of those. So like, because I knew how to wear costumes, because I learned musicality, right? Because I knew how to deal with choreographers that may be a little tricky in the way that they may be a little tricky in the way that they speak to humans, right? I learned those things along the way. So once I got to New York, so funny we're on this podcast, I had nothing to lose. Like I didn't give a fuck. I was like, whatever, I'm here we go, done, do it, like whatever.
Right.
and then things kind of worked out. Go ahead.
You worked with, is that when you worked with Titus too at Broadway Palm in that review, or did you guys miss each other?
We missed each other. I met Titus. Here's a funny story about Titus. I met Titus when I was working at Disney because for a long time at Disney, there's this big thing called like the 25-year banquet where people who work at the company for 25 years get this beautiful banquet. And I sang in a group that always sang at this banquet, Voices of Liberty, sang at the banquet, right? Yep. And it was a convention show, so we kind of counted on the extra money. And then every year Disney would come out with some big anthem that they were, always going to sing. And oftentimes I got to sing part of that big old anthem. And then all of a sudden one year I'm at Disney and they never asked me about the anthem. I'm like, I guess they're not going to do an anthem song this year at the 25-year banquet. So I'll just sing my Americana music with my group. Yeah. And then Voices of Liberty, we did our little mic check and we're waiting in the green room, and I hear someone singing what sounds like a Disney anthem. And they're singing it really well, like so good, like better than I could ever imagine. And so, of course, me get up, I like inside of the theater and I'm looking up and there's this guy on stage, like singing beautifully, beautifully, beautifully. And then after he's done singing, he walks down and he's in awe that I'm in this group called Voices of Liberty. And I'm really angry and in awe that he sounds so good. And he introduces himself. His name is Titus Burgess. My name is Arbender Robinson. And that's when we met. And then years later, we're both in the original Broadway company of, right after that, he moved to New York and started working. Years later, he and I are both in the original company of Little Mermaid on Broadway. Of course, he is Sebastian and I am understudying him. And that is exactly how it should have worked. But had you said that at that time at Disney, when I was like, you're singing my song, I would have thought otherwise. But he's so good. But that's when I met Titus. And
that's awesome.
Have always been in awe of him as well. Another person, me sitting back and just watching them do all the things, being like, it's amazing. So
oh my God, that's so funny. So now you did your Florida stint, Disney, et cetera, and now you finally get to New York. Was it the Hairspray audition that brought you to New York, or were you already bound and determined to go there anyway.
All right. So let's have real conversations here.
Yeah.
I'll be with you. I tell people I knew it was time for me to move to New York, but that was a lie. That was a lie. It's a lie. I was no longer working full-time at Disney because my feelings were hurt in my last contract negotiation where they really wouldn't give me a raise. And I was just like, screw you. So like, didn't sign a full-time contract. I was just subbing. I was working regionally again, doing all that kind of good stuff. I had done a couple cruise ships, all that kind of stuff. And to be honest with you, I was going through the worst breakup of my life.
Oh.
Still to this day, the worst breakup of my life. And one morning we had a huge fight, and I hopped in my truck. I was driving a pickup truck at this time, right? Living in Orlando, driving a pickup truck, stick shift.
I wish I could see that.
Oh goodness, me too. I wish I could look and see how ridiculous that looks. I drive to the airport. I park my car. I go up to the counter. I was like crying. LA or New York right now. There happened to be a flight to New York. So I fly to New York. I call the only person I really knew in New York, who I had met at Seaside Music Theater, Forrest Hedden. I call Forrest. He says I can crash on his couch. And I believe at the time he was at an audition. When I arrived, he was at an audition at Ripley Greer. So I went to Ripley Greer and met him there, and Hairspray was auditioning, and I went to like the open little dance call for Hairspray, literally like in jeans and a sweater, like not prepared at all. So I did a little dance call, and then they asked me to come back later that day and sing. I didn't even have my music. So I'm waiting in line to sing. I borrowed the book of the person behind me and flipped through their book, and Dancing in the Street was in there. I go in, I sing Dancing in the Street. I'm leaving the audition. They're like, you forgot your music. I was like, it's not my music. The person's coming. I mean, like, I had nothing to lose. I was going through a breakup. I was in a cloud. It's all like dark. I was just like, fuck my life and fuck the world. Like, I don't care. I'm just doing this thing. And I was just trying to survive day to day, like put the pieces together and survive day to day. And again, the universe put me in the right place, because about a month and a half later, I started rehearsals for Hairspray on Broadway, my Broadway debut. It was a crazy thing. And then this is also what makes it super weird. So I'm in New York, right, auditioning and doing the thing. I finally get my own apartment, not even my own apartment. I'm renting a room at this lady's house in Washington Heights, like this roach infested house. Like I was spraying roach bombs every day before I left the house, right? It was so gross. So I'm renting a room for like $100 a week in this house.
Wow.
And I'm running low on money. And then a friend of mine, Daniel Watts, calls me. He goes, hey, we're down in North Carolina doing Smokey Joe's Cafe. The person who's supposed to play Victor never showed up. So I told the director about you. So literally that night, when I'm out of money, I left that $100 a week place, flew down with all my belongings to North Carolina, learned the show in one day, performed the show for 2 weeks, got a little bit of money, came back to New York, rented another room. Cool. When I'm out of money, I then had to fly to, I booked to do like, I think it was hair at like the Barn Theater in Augusta, Michigan. So took my belongings, Augusta, Michigan, right. Then I get a call back for Hairspray. So I fly back to New York, right? Drive to Detroit, fly to New York, do my call back. They tell me that I booked the show. Yay. When do rehearsals start? Rehearsals start the next Monday. The show that I'm doing closes on Sunday night. I'm telling you, this is so crazy. So I go back to Michigan, close the show, drive that night back to the airport in Detroit, sleep at the airport, fly first thing in the morning back to New York, drag my luggage into my first day of rehearsal for Hairspray on Broadway. Like, it was literally just me just going wherever the fuck the universe took me at that time. I remember it, but I vaguely remember it because I was just in a fog, because I was just trying to make it to the next day.
Yeah.
And then I booked the show on Broadway, and then everything shifted. Like
literally
changed
everything
overnight.
shifted.
Yeah. it was probably it was like that I did the first year of that contract, still like subletting and sleeping on couches, and thank goodness for Forrest letting me sleep on his couch and all that stuff, before I realized, oh wait, I live in New York now, let me find my own apartment. So then I got my own apartment, like my real own apartment, after a year, because I was like, they're gonna fire me tomorrow, because like they're gonna realize that I shouldn't be here. They're hired the wrong person. I heard other people singing that callback. They were better. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. So it was finally a year before I said, let me commit to moving here. So officially, moved and signed a lease. And to be honest with you, it wasn't until about 5 years later when I won. It's now called the Legacy Robe, but the Gypsy Robe. When I won the Gypsy Robe for the revival of Hair, it wasn't until that moment that I realized, holy shit, I'm an actor.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm actually doing this. That's when I realized it. Everything up to that point, right? I had done other shows. Hairspray, the first time I did Hair, Ragtime, and Little Mermaid. I did those shows before I realized I'm an actor in New York.
Wow.
Up at that point, I was just trying to figure it out. I was just still watching you. You know what I mean? Like I was still in that place. Yeah, no. So those first 5-6 years on Broadway, I do not really remember, because I was in struggle mode.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
oh no.
So that getting the robe, that moment, and you realizing that, is that when you also finally accepted the fact, and I mean, I'm sure you've heard it. I know you've heard it. I've said it, but that you're good. You're a really good actor. You're a really good performer. You're a good person to have in a cast. Is that when you believe that?
No.
Oh my God.
In fact, no. You know what? I think it's because I'm from Illinois, and I went to a Catholic university, and I moved in 7th grade. I think because of all of those things, those words, for me to give myself accolades in that way, I was not human enough or adult or confident enough or whatever enough to be able to give myself a compliment in that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I started teaching acting that I realized, oh, I'm actually good at this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't until then. And when people gave me compliments, you know something, it wasn't until last year that I was actually able to take a compliment, just accept a compliment. And someone said this, someone said this to me. It was a talk back. So I work for this organization now called Broadway Artists Alliance, and it's like a training program for young artists. And I'm their new associate artistic director. I love saying it. So the artistic director and the associate artistic director, we interview like a different, we used to say Tony Award winning artist, but now we changed that. And now it's like an accomplished artist that most of our students for that year would appreciate meeting.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to win a Tony Award to be accomplished. So a lesson I learned. So we're interviewing someone, and she said this. She says, when someone gives you a compliment, it actually has nothing to do with you. And for you to not just take the compliment is the most selfish thing that you can do. Because for someone to give you a compliment, that means that you did something, or you said something, or you're wearing something, or you look in some way that they felt the need to stop their day and share that with you. That is for them. That is what they needed to do at that time. I see this. I think you're talented, and I want to stop my day and make sure that you know that I appreciate what you just did. And so for me not to take that compliment 100%, whether I agree with it or not, is the rudest thing that you can do. Mm-hmm. And because she said the word rude, I was like, oh, I don't want to be rude. And I thought about that for a long time. And so I'm learning now to accept the compliments, to celebrate accomplishments, like all the things, because that's, I mean, it's human. It's what we do. And if someone wants to stop their day to come up to me and be like, dude, I like your shoes, or whatever they want to say, I have to acknowledge that and appreciate that they felt the need to do that with me. And I have to like, just accept that for them, not be an ass. It's like, oh, deal. No, it is a big deal. That's why they came up to me to say it. So that's also a new thing. So when you ask the question, that when you knew that you were good? Hell no, it wasn't until much later. I
Wow.
just didn't allow myself to say that. So yeah, so there we go. Done.
Wow. But I
Long
mean, that makes a lot of sense because, again, I think we tend to forget, right? Because we're in the business, that this is something that not everyone can do. As a matter of fact, very few people can do this. And so there has always been an aura of mystique, and there's always been this kind of like, ooh, I would always love to try that, but I can't even imagine how they even get up on stage to do that. And I think for us, we tend to forget about that, and we just judge ourselves or whatever. And yeah, to 99.9% of people out there, what we do, they have no comprehension, and it's boggling to them. And so yeah, that totally makes sense. I love that.
Yeah, it's wild. It's wild. So and now here we are on, this
I
day.
know. I
And
know.
so
I
many
want to
so
hit one thing
like,
you said really fast about being from Illinois, which really early, like one of my first interviews was Chad Beglin, who is also from Illinois. And I
Mhm.
asked him if he was aware of like Midwest Nice and if that ever played into it, if he had heard of that or what have you. Because I've always said that for us coming from Chicago, for me, the East Coast and West Coast felt so far away, so far away. I never imagined I was ever going to end up on either coast. So for me, it was be a working actor, work in Chicago if you can, because it's a great city. And so, yes, for me, when I think of those two coasts, I am like a fish out of water because I just like it moves so fast and people talk so, direct and everything. So, would you say that that idea of like being from the Midwest has that helped you, hurt you? Have you been aware of it? Did you feel kind of like a fish out of water also being on the coast and stuff? Like,
So I was lucky that when I got here, I was focused on something else.
right.
Like you're right. I wasn't able to realize the high stakes situation that I was in. I just didn't
Yeah.
realize because like all I knew is that I drove to the airport. Like I was literally walking through a fog the first couple of years. Um, but I'll say this, looking back, I think even in the beginning, even when I was auditioning regionally, I think that Midwest Nice uh, worked to my advantage in an interesting way. I think people didn't take me seriously when I walked into an audition.
Yeah.
I think they were expecting some kid who didn't know what he was doing. And so when I opened my mouth and seemed to have an understanding of the craft, I think it worked to my advantage because they weren't expecting that.
Mm.
And something, I mean, the polite me would say halfway decent, but the real me now would say something good came out of this child.
Oh, yeah.
I think it caught them in a way where they were like, we have to hire this person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think it was a psychological thing. I think it was their own prejudices working against them, but working in my favor.
Right.
Because I was unassuming. I was not that person in the waiting room, warming up and stretching and kicking my face. I was a person just like sitting in the corner, watching everyone else and learning from everyone else. Like I was always in the position of sitting back and watching and observing and appreciating the fact that I'm there, but never thinking that I deserve to be there. So I think that mentality, that Midwest polite mentality, being as humble as possible, I think it worked to my advantage because once I got in the room, people were surprised that I was actually there and ready and able and willing to do the work. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And now, I mean, I will say, having grown up in the Midwest and worked with people from both coasts, there is a difference. There really is. Like, I mean, we would be lying if we said there isn't a difference. And so, yeah. I became acutely aware, like you, thinking like, okay, I'm not overly confident. So when I am in New York auditioning, I'm going to just be the most pleasant, polite person ever, be myself, and hope that gets me through. And it really did, because there were many times where I didn't even belong in the room because I just wasn't as experienced. And yet I know I got a pass because I'm nice. You know?
And then the other thing that I learned is like Oftentimes actually, you're booking and it has nothing to do with your talent. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's like there's some other reason where it's like this music director likes something that you did, or this person likes your work, or this person liked your shoot. There's all kinds of things that get you further along in that audition process. And then if you just continue to deliver and show your mastery of the craft, then you're gonna book. But like
Yeah.
we used to think, oh, well, if I got a call back, it meant that I was the best, or it meant that I did a great job. And it doesn't always mean that, right? It could be so many things. Like example is I'm directing a show that I'm directing Little Mermaid this summer. And a lot of people, I'm so excited because I have so many issues with the show and the book. So I hope to address a lot of them. But a lot of people have like reached out and they're like, I want to be Ariel, and they're all sending me videos. And what they don't realize is that none of them are right for the Ariel that I have in my mind.
Right.
They're super talented, but I don't want a traditionally pretty Ariel. I want Ariel to be the ugliest one out of all of her sisters. Because then it gives Triton a reason to be so protective of her.
Yeah.
I want her to not fit in any way. And I want her to be aware that she doesn't fit in any way. And that's why she just wants to escape. It's weird to me that in the story, we think that the only reason she wants to be on land is for this dude. Like, no, not at all. She wants to be on land because it's the furthest thing away from the water.
Yeah.
That's what it is, right? Everything under here, I have all these trinkets and all this stuff, and none of it makes me feel like I belong here because everyone's pretty and everyone's this and everyone's that, and I'm none of those things.
Yeah.
And when I open my mouth to sing, my voice doesn't even sound as great as my sisters. Like I want the sisters to actually be like glorious singers. And whenever Ariel opens her mouth to sing the Oz, I want other voices singing with her so that her voice sounds like a choir, not like a pretty solo voice.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So like everything about her is wrong. So like all these people who are submitting for Ariel, none of them are right for my Ariel. Doesn't mean they're not talented. It has nothing to do with them, but I just have a different idea because I want it to be more about this mermaid meeting this guy and then being saved. I'm like, that's stupid. So
oh my God, I love it.
So there.
Where are you doing that at?
Summer Theater of New Canaan.
Yeah. Okay. All right. We'll leave that for another time.
I just clicked that together when I said it. There we go. This is how long Landon and I have known each other. It's like forever.
Oh my God, yeah.
Will come out of our mouths, and that's a whole conversation that just happened. So there we go.
So now, speaking of Landon and Arbender, I want to just take advantage of the fact that I have you, and I have not seen you since making my big announcement. And as we know, this podcast, I cover not only talking to artists, but I talk about myself and my transformation. So I would love to know, what was your impression, just not even from a actor standpoint, just as a person, like, were you ever aware back then, like, oh, there's something different about this person? I don't know what it is, but because, now that I am me and I can tell the world, like, I was acutely aware there was something different. I was never male. And I've said this on my podcast. There's not one day I ever thought I was a male. I just was pretending. I was acting, literally, as a male trying to survive in the world. So yeah, now that you look back at our friendship, you know that there were two things going on. One, trying to be an actor, trying to be successful. Two, trying to be a male every single day, trying to just fake it.
This is so interesting.
Yeah.
I knew there was something different.
Okay.
But my brain never would have allowed me to think that this is what was different. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Just because at that time too, like, had you said any of this to me at that time, like say you fully knew and said this to me, I wouldn't what? Like, I wouldn't have even understood like even what that meant.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'll tell you, because when I met you, you were in a relationship.
Yeah.
And what I loved seeing was how you functioned in that relationship. Like you were such a caregiver and a protector, and like paternal and maternal. Like there were all these things that you offered. And I thought that was beautiful. Like I thought that was what being a good human should be, like what being a good partner should be. So it was different because you were functioning as a partner in a way that like I hadn't seen, you know, you know what I mean? So like that was different, and you that was different, and I didn't understand it. Now it all makes sense to me, but like no. And then the other thing, I had this very strange, and I couldn't explain it. I just had this like very strange attraction to you where I was just like, I don't even understand.
I get it. I get it. Yes. That's how I felt about you this entire time. Like it started as like being enamored with you, like just like, oh my God, there's everything, like not just the talent. There's this heart of gold. There's this person who's just so comfortable seemingly in your skin. Like, because I mean, whether you thought that or not, like you just seemed very comfortable with who you were moving through life. And I think we were like what, in our mid-20s when we first finally met. Yeah. So God, we've known each other forever.
Don't say any numbers, don't know our ages.
I will not, my friend. But so like, yes, I'm acutely aware that around me, especially in theater, not everyone is comfortable with themselves. And then here you come, being very confident with who you were, just being very authentic in terms of just showing me your heart, being able to be vulnerable, which has always been huge with me. If you can be vulnerable with me, oh my God, like you're in. Like that's because again, I'm aware that something's up with me. And so if I can see even a glimmer of that in someone else, like that's huge. That's very attractive. That's very appealing. That's very enriching. And so, yes, I'm of course drawn to you. And when I think back to those days, most of the people that I really meshed with were people that were Regabika, very confident in who they were, not just as an artist or their talents, but as a person, as a human being. They were trying to do good in the world. And that has been and always will be very important to me. And so when I look now at the people that are in my life now, there's not many from those days that are in my life for many reasons, but I really held on to the ones who were just very instrumental in my life, in my upbringing, and people that I knew I could go to if shit really got bad. And that's what you've been for me. Like you've just been this light in the storm that I kind of, whenever things are getting really bad, I can just look to you and be like, just give me your smile, sing to me, talk to me, please, please. I need some Arbender right now. And so
this morning. All right.
well, no, but and so it's neat to hear that even back then, there was something that was like, well, I don't know about this. Like, this isn't totally right because I was dealing with duality every day.
Yeah. I mean, wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's wild. And I will say this. I'm not gonna lie. So when I knew that we were doing this, actually, no, ever since you made your announcement, right? Since you made your announcement, and then in your announcement, or maybe a few posts later, you mentioned something about your hair. I wasn't sure if you made a post about getting a perm or letting it grow, or you mentioned something about your hair.
Yeah.
So then it was like, I need to scour everything, and I just have to see. I have to see. And I kept like searching and searching and searching and searching and searching for a long time before I actually saw a photograph of you. And I had to like look at the picture and then stare at it and then be like, when I look at this photo, and I think it was you. I think it was you like in this. I think it was you like in a podcast photo like this.
Oh, sure.
I think that's what it was. I was like, where do I see the Landon that I knew in there? And like what it was really like it was like a whole, and I feel like I stared at it for hours. Just trying to put it all together. And then I remember listening to like the first episode of your podcast. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing you know what I mean? And so like it was just me like trying to like putting it all together, because up to that point, every memory, every
Yeah.
idea, I mean, right, there are like all these moments in life that I can clearly see, but like trying trying to put it all together. And then
Yeah.
and then this is funny. So uh I was able to fully put it together 2 weeks ago. So this is crazy. So my grandmother passed away, which sounds sad, but like it's really a great thing. Like
Yeah.
she's very, just like, she lived her life to die, go to heaven,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So, and my uncle was preaching her eulogy, and he talked about this idea that as humans, every day we die and we're born again every single day, right? Because who you were yesterday is not who you are today. Who you were yesterday has to die in order for you to be who you are today. When you get married, the single you is dead and the married you is born. So then I went back to the picture with that in mind, and it made it so much easier for me, because I no longer then had to connect the dots and be like, how did this Landon become this Landon, whatever. I was just able to be like, no, this is Landon, done. That's what it is. And who Landon is tomorrow will be that new Landon, and who Landon is 5 years from now will be that new Landon. And it made it all so much easier, because then I was able to accept every memory that I have of you as just that one thing.
Yeah.
And I don't need to connect them. I don't need them to be linear or whatever. Nope, not at all. So it's cool now for me to think back to Landon that I met putting on janky red and blue shoes, boots, and just knowing that like eventually that Landon will die and then become the Landon that I'm seeing today, and who I'm seeing will die and become the Landon that I talk to tomorrow. So, so that sermon, my grandmother dying,
wow,
made all of this even easier for me, because I was trying to connect it and make it all sense. And I was like, no, I just need to live each day, die, and then live the next day, done. And that has been a game changer for me overnight in like how I navigate the world every single day. It's easier for me to let things go and like not be bothered by things. And I'm just like, all right, great, done, whatever, done with that, you know, so much easier. So
that is so beautiful.
Yeah. There we go.
Thank you for sharing that. And you know, what's interesting about this is that, you know, I because I don't know everyone's lives and I don't know who's in these lives, I kind of assumed that in the theater world, at least, most people had a friend or someone in their life that is maybe transitioned or, you know, has gone through this, only to find out through several friends, not just you, that that's not the case, you know, that oftentimes I might be the first one in someone's life. And so I'm honored by that in a way, because I think it is something that can be many things. It's very perplexing. It's perplexing to me still, obviously, to think about that life and be like, okay, what about my past am I still okay with? And what will I acknowledge? You know, I'm not going to put aside that I played Jack in Into the Woods all these times. I'm just not going to. I love that role. I love that show. It is what it is. But it is difficult. It is difficult to kind of reckon the two things and be like, okay, all these great roles, that career all happen. Now, do I just deny it and then move on? Or do I accept it and then try to figure out a way to marry the two? And so that's what I'm doing right now, is instead of thinking like, okay, Landon ended here and Landon with the Y started here, I'm trying to go, well, no, I mean, I always was this person, always was. I never, and that's one thing I'm very proud of, I never was anyone else. Even though I was trying to be a boy, I was still being me. And that's why I was subject to ridicule and bullying and things, because people saw it and went, wait, you're not fully a guy. So what is it? Are you gay? Are, you know, what's up with you? You don't dress like everyone else. You don't present like everyone else. So if anything, I feel like that's kind of the missing information. And then hopefully, as people talk to me, and like I interviewed my choir teacher, and what she said, and it was huge, was you're still the same person. Like you haven't changed your voice. I always had a high voice, as we all know. So my hair is a little bit longer. I've had no procedures, none whatsoever, no surgeries, nothing. So like, I'm still me. It's just, yes, now I'm presenting something. And if anything, I'm a better version of myself because I'm fully authentic. Fully authentic.
Yeah. So question for you, acting
Yeah.
wise, would would you still feel comfortable stepping into like a he him male presenting role in a show?
God, I'm so glad you asked this question. Yes, as a matter of fact, that does not scare me nearly as much as trying to be a female. When I interviewed Christy Cates, I went, listen, it's not lost on me that now I have to walk into an audition room against you and Stephanie J. Block. You like, come on, no, there's no way. I can barely do it for my male contemporaries. Like, no. So yes, I'm cool with that. If someone, would see me in that role, I'd be fine with it. Although there's, definitely some physical changes that have happened to me with the medicine. What I'm also really intrigued by, though, is exploring shows and roles that I feel have never been told from a story of being a trans or intersex person. So, like Audrey in Little Shop of Horrors, I believe could very well be a trans or intersex person.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Yeah.
know, Adelaide, Guys and Dolls,
Oh,
the
in
MC
fact,
in Cabaret.
rewind really fast. So another job I have, I work for a talent agency, and we have a client that trans Audrey. We also have a client uh at the time trans Seymour. Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Love it.
because there's nothing there, especially with those two characters. There's nothing that says
No,
that their gender has to be this or that,
right.
right? It's just two people who are navigating life, and they come in contact with someone who accepts them 100% for who they are,
Yeah.
and they're struggling with how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Audrey sees Seymour for who Seymour is, and Seymour has a hard time, like, oh, really? And Seymour sees Audrey for who Audrey is, and Audrey is like, wait a minute, please do not see through my facade, because I want
Right.
time to build it. You know what I mean? That's all. That's it. That's
Yeah.
it. So yeah. No. Yeah.
So that's where my passion is. That's what I want to do. I want to go back and revisit roles that I loved, like I played Seymour, I love it, or stories that I feel could benefit from now having just this element. And you don't have to make a big deal out of it. You don't have to change the keys in some cases or lyrics. You just present it. This is what it is, and just add that extra layer to the story. I think it's very rich. So that's kind of, if I think about acting, because as you know, I'm more into directing, producing and stuff. I love that. But I do want to act and perform again. I miss it. And as an aside, my Parkinson's has become much easier to manage. Like my symptoms and stuff have lessened extremely with this transformation. So like, yeah, I don't use a cane to walk.
Was it stress? Was it like just like stress and like trying to navigate life in this way that
Maybe, but there's a theory, and again, I don't want to talk too much about it because I think there's still a lot to be explored, but there's a theory that it's the estrogen because women don't often get diagnosed with Parkinson's. It's very rare. And so there is a thought that because of the overwhelming amount of estrogen in my system now, that somehow could have told the brain to like, hey, chill out. Yeah.
knock it off?
So it's wild. It's totally wild. But so thank you for that. I really wanted to kind of take advantage of the fact that you were on the show to be like, hey, remember back in my 20s when we, knew each other? Like, what were you thinking? Because again, for me, I'm only 14 months into this still. I still want to know like what was I like back then? You know what I mean? Like I have my idea, but I don't know what others saw. And so there's just this curiosity I have, especially in writing my memoir and doing all these kind of stories and thinking of this. I was just like, wow, I wonder what people in my world thought about me back then.
Right.
So thank you for that. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thanks for the question about acting too, because I have been thinking a lot about that because I do miss it a lot, and that would be kind of the final nice bow to all of this is that if I ended up back on stage again as my real self, like that would be a huge victory for me. So now
go ahead.
You.
No, go. No, you. Done.
Well, I was just going to move on to my final questions here. So So now I have 3 questions that I ask. And then because you are my BFF and I've always wanted to do this, I have another little segment that I want to do with you really fast. But my first 3 are, and I've asked everyone this, as you know, you're on No Fucks Left. Is there currently anything in your life, Arbender Robinson, that you have no fucks left about?
What's funny is that I knew this question was coming and I couldn't think of an answer. I really couldn't think of an answer because that Midwest side of me was still
Yeah.
like, oh, I still have to care, I still have to care. But I think for me, I think in general, I think I actually have no fucks left about anything. About anything. And I think that's part of what helps me survive and keep moving, right? This idea that everything that happens today, it doesn't matter when I go to sleep, it all dies and then like it's reborn again, like with new information. Like
Yeah.
I realize nothing bothers me. Nothing's going to stop me. Nothing holds me back. I don't care if that is what you're going through today in your life. I can offer this or I can't offer anything. You can do whatever you want with it, but like it is not my responsibility to help you navigate everything you're going through in your life.
Yeah.
That is what you need to go through at that time. And when I think back, I went through a lot of shit too. And that's just what it is. I will still be your friend, but if that's what you need to do, then do it. You didn't invite me to your party. Great. That's totally fine. I'm not at your party. Do not ask me for a gift because I wasn't there. You know what I mean? Like whatever. So like, I think in general right now in life, I have no fucks. And I'm so excited about it because there are all of these things in the back of my mind that I'm like, that I never did, that people have, for example, an early director that I worked with, the first time I did Forever Plaid, I worked with this director in Wisconsin, and we met again maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And he said, when are you writing a book? When are you writing an acting book? And I was like, never. Why should I write an acting book? And he's like, I've seen you teach. I hear you speak about the craft. I've seen your work. I've seen how it's grown and all this stuff. He's like, you have a story, you have a book, and the way that you teach and the way that you approach acting from all these things, like, he's like, that is, and I was like, never, no, why? And then all of a sudden I was like, wait, the only reason I'm saying never know why is because I'm thinking to myself, why would anyone want to pick up a book and read what I think about acting? Because I'm whatever. And I was like, but actually, dude, look at your life, idiot. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? You had to figure it out and put all this stuff together, and you teach and this, and you're asked to speak at all these different things. And I'm like, write the freaking book, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just write the book. Well, what is it going to be? Who cares? Just sit down and figure it out, right? And then eventually give it to an editor and have them figure out the rest of it for you. All that stuff. So just like do it. And I think the only reason I wasn't going to do it is because I'm like, what are people going to say? But I don't care.
Right.
Don't pick it up. Like what? So I think right now in my life, sorry, I'm so agitated and excited about that. I think right now in my life, I don't give a fuck about anything because I know who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I will navigate my life appropriately as the person that I am, right? I will treat anyone who comes into my circle with the most respect and love and care. And I'm so happy to give that love and care to anyone who comes anywhere near me. And that's all I'm in charge of. So I think general, I have no fucks. And I can't believe I'm saying that because the Midwest side of me never would have said that a year ago, even a month ago. So there we go.
But like I tell people, I think that also comes with age and perspective and wisdom because, again, in doing this, this transformation and everything, I had to resign myself to the fact that I knew I was going to encounter transphobia. I was encounter hate. I live in a very red state, as we know. So like, I knew I was going to get all of this. And so my kind of attitude had to change to, but I'm not going to let you get to me. I'm just not going to give you that power anymore. So it's kind of funny. My wife makes fun of me all the time for this title of the podcast because she's like, but you just cared about this right here. And I went, yes, I still care. The Midwest in me still is like, no, I care, but you can't get to me anymore. You just can't get to me anymore. And I'm not going to give you even that chance,
And I think also like with you saying, but the Midwest side of me is still there. I think that's also part of not giving a fuck, that you can fully embrace the fact
Yeah.
that you choose, right? I choose to hold on to and acknowledge that there is a part of me that is nicer than the person to my left and my right. And I am okay with that. And I love that. And I will take that to my grave. And that's part of who I am. So take it or leave it, like it, make fun of me. I don't care.
Right.
This is, I choose to do. I choose to try to be the nicest person in the room. That is my choice, right?
And I really do. Yeah. Yeah.
I know
I
you
love
do.
that.
Yeah,
I love
cool.
that.
All right.
So my next question is, I know, and this one, it's funny because you kind of covered this a bit earlier in the interview, but again, when I was doing this and thinking about the show, I felt like as a society, we kind of got away from being able to be proud of our accomplishments or our accolades or to call them out because it started to somehow look braggadocious or what have you. I want to get back to, you don't have to tell everyone what you're proud about every day, but we live life and we accomplish big things and do big things as human beings. So what are you, Arbender Robinson, most proud about as of this moment, either personally, professionally, or otherwise? What are you most proud about?
Yes, I'll tell you. I will tell you this. If you talk to someone that met me in high school, elementary school, college, beginning of my career, or this part of my career, I'm proud of the fact that I am the same person. I'm so proud of that. And I think there are times that I thought it had to change, or I should be ashamed of who or whatever. I am the exact same person, and I love it. 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 So like someone the other day was like, if you die today, what do you think people are gonna say? And I'm like, I don't care what they say. But if they tell the truth, I know it's gonna be good stuff, because there are very few people that I've approached in the wrong way. And all of the people in my life that I approached in the wrong way, I have personally apologized to each and every one of them many years ago. Just you know this either. So there was a period in college where I was not a nice person. Out of like fear or whatever. And then I was working at this company in Indiana, living in this like Mennonite town, whatever, and had lots of time to like reflect. I was touring with Bridgeworth Theater Company out of Goshen, Indiana, like whatever. Had a lot of time to reflect. And I reached out personally to each and every person that I crossed in the wrong way and apologized to them. And not just apologize and not ask, I didn't ask them to forgive me, but I told them what I did, at the time, why I did it, how it makes me feel now, and like how that haunts me. Like I made it extremely clear, didn't expect anything in return from them, but I was like, no, I need you to know that I know, whether you're aware of it or not. I need you to know that I know that what I did in that moment was completely wrong. And these are the reasons that I did it and why I'll never do it again, and how it has affected me even today. Take it as you wish. Done.
Good for you.
So I know that if anyone tells the truth about me, there is nothing bad that they can say to me. And I'm so proud of that accomplishment.
You should be.
And I will hold on to that accomplishment and do it with even more gusto now that I'm aware that that's a choice. Okay, great.
Yeah. I've always contested that if you did an informal poll of everyone in Broadway in New York and said, who's one of the nicest people you've ever worked with, your name would come up easily. I always said Gavin Creel and Arbender Robinson. And,
that angel.
I know. But it makes sense. And it makes sense that you guys work together. And yeah, you two are the two that I've always looked at as being like, oh, like to be in their orbit is just an amazing, amazing gift. And it is. So, and now my other question is, and my last one of my questions is, what is a bit of advice that you received at some point in your life, even as early as yesterday, if it really rung true with you, that you always make sure you pass on to someone? Again, professional, personal, or otherwise. We all get these great life lessons that somehow shape us. I always like to educate my audience if I can. So what's some great advice?
So the one thing that I mentioned about taking compliments and realizing it has nothing to do with you, that's something that since that happened, I share it as often as I possibly can. Another bit of advice that I try to share is that humans in general won't really say or do things that they don't mean unless they're evil people. So if a human says something to you, if a human is like, stay in touch, or a human is like, do this or follow up, blah, 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 regardless of what you think or what you feel or what you think their intentions are, go ahead and follow up. Go ahead and reach out because it could be the difference between like night and day or this, or like what you perceive as failure or success. I know for myself, if I say to someone, stay in touch, reach out. I work for a talent agency, and sometimes there'll be people who will audition for the agency and I can't take them on my roster, but I say, but listen, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, beliefs, whatever about this industry, you reach out to me and I'll give you the honest answer. I'll tell you what I think. I really mean that when I say it. And I'm so happy when some people actually follow through with that. There are so many instances in life where I didn't follow through. And then I run into people many years later and they were like, dude, why didn't you follow through? Because I said, I could have helped with all these things. And I was like, oh, I was just afraid, or I didn't think you really meant it. So I'm telling you this, humans usually, especially when it's like stay in touch or follow up or whatever, humans usually say what they mean. And follow up on it. Even if you think they don't mean it, follow up anyway. That way, you know for sure. Don't assume anything ever again in life. Don't assume, did I book that? Oh, I assume they gave this up. Call them and find out, right? Just and don't be afraid of that. And I think that is it is this thing that I've learned. It has changed my life immensely. And I pass it on whenever I can, right?
I love it.
Even if I tell someone, stay in touch or reach out to me, I will then say, and listen to what I'm saying. I'm saying stay in touch and reach out. I mean that. In fact, then I give the little gem of advice. It can change your life overnight. So follow up, right? Humans help humans. That is what happens, right? We are pack animals, right?
Yeah.
We really are. We in some ways, in good ways, in some ways, in bad ways, we gravitate towards people and things that are similar. We gravitate towards our own. We reach out to people that we want to help. So if someone says that they're in your corner, believe that they are in your corner until they are not in your corner, and use them as the resources and the humans that they are, because that is why we're here. We genuinely help I'm going on like hours. We genuinely help each other. And I think sometimes when we are struggling or we're having a hard time or we're feeling alone, it's because we have forgotten that we have a massive team of people who are honestly in your corner. And something I learned last night on Instagram, right? I give myself only so much time to scroll through Instagram. And I was saying how humans help humans, how like humans are there to are always in your corner. There was someone on Instagram the other day who said something very, very similar the other day about humans helping humans. And when you find yourself in a position where you need other humans, remind those other humans that you were thinking about them in this moment. Yeah. So say you decide today that you need to reach out to Susie Broadway, because that's who popped in your mind. Sending them a simple message saying, hey, I was thinking about you today, changes everything, because then it puts them in open mode, support mode, help mode, and that simple conversation can change your life. So if you think about someone, you need someone, whatever, let them know in that moment that you are thinking about them, and it will make your friendship circle that much stronger, because we all need to be wanted and needed and thought of. So when that happens, just let them know.
Agreed.
So there we go. Done.
I love it. No, this is good. And like you said, this is stuff that needs to be said. How many times in my career and your career have people, good-natured people, said to you like, hey, follow up with me, or hey, talk to me. And I can speak for myself. I go, oh, they didn't really mean that, and you just let it go. So no, that's huge to hear. Huge to
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
So now, you sadly will never be on Inside the Actors Studio with James Lipton because James has left us. But
No.
if there's anyone that ever should have been on the show and answered these questions, it's you. So I'm going
Oh,
to put on my best James Lipton impression, and I'm
okay.
going to ask you his famous questions from Bernard Pivot,
Yes.
in honor of James Lipton. Arbender, what is your favorite word?
Oh. Oh, probably love. I would say love. I
What
would
is
say
your
love. I'm not gonna lie. The first word that came to my mind was fuck, but that's only because I said it like 5 times on this podcast. But no, I would say love. Love, love.
there'll be a place for you to be able to say fuck later, I think.
Okay, great.
What is your least favorite word?
Hmm, probably sorry,
Oh,
which is new. It's new. Sorry.
huh.
Yeah. Because when people say that, I'll be like, "Ooh, don't say you're sorry," because sorry means that you had full control over it.
Mm,
Like if you make a mistake or something, don't say that you're sorry, because you were supposed to make that mistake in that time and you can learn from it or you can grow from it. So sorry just means that you're like letting it go and you're like giving up. But like, no,
yeah.
just embrace all the shit, like all the things, just embrace them. So I think favorite word is love. And the word that I hate right now is sorry. Don't say you're sorry. You're not
Love it.
sorry. That's just what it is. And we move on. Like we learn from that. So done. Sorry.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
What turns me on
Mhm.
creatively, spiritually, or emotionally? I mean, life. But
Yeah.
let me think differently, because I'm thinking more about that phrase turns me on. So like it can
Yeah.
either excite me, or it can excite me, or it can like arouse,
Excite you.
yeah, arouse me and turn me on. uh I'm gonna say authenticity. Like when you see someone truly being authentic
Yeah.
in who they are and what they are and what they believe, like even in this wacky time that we're living in, whether I agree with you or not, if I truly believe that you are being authentic in what you believe, not vicious, not vindictive, not a puppet, right? Not a follower, not, oh, I'm afraid to say whatever. But if I think you're being truly authentic in what you're saying, whether I agree with it or not, I can be like, all right, I got you. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll have a conversation with you. I'll hear your point of view because I truly think that you're being 100% authentic in this. This is great. We can
Right.
have a conversation. In fact, I was just away the other day, uh, in Grand Cayman the other day, singing at the
Ooh.
Grand Cayman Arts Festival, which is so awesome. And we were the host family who brought us all from New York down for this arts festival. We are in their living room eating dinner that they prepared for us, and something came up. A conversation started where uh, the idea of consent came up. Now, this is like, what? We're getting to have this conversation right now with like
Yeah.
some friends and some strangers, and we're talking like consent, sexual, all kinds of things, right? And I was in that space, and the conversation was heated.
I
It
bet.
was nasty. It was ugly. It was heated. But I was able to sit back and laugh and smile and have joy because everyone was just being authentic
Yeah.
in who they were as humans and what they thought and what they believed. And it was the scariest and most beautiful conversation I've been a part of in a long time. Now, granted, I didn't say a whole lot of things conversation because I was like, ooh, but I was just tennis balls fly on the wall, laughing at things. And when something else was said, I'll be like, oh, what are you gonna say? And then like after the conversation was over, we were like, and what are we doing tomorrow? It was just like no one was trying to convince anyone that they were right or wrong. It was just like, no, I just want you to understand where I'm coming from and what I think about consent and
Yeah.
what you great, done. And I was like, this is gorgeous because everyone was true and authentic in what they were saying, what they were believing. We weren't trying to hurt anyone. We weren't
Right.
we didn't have ulterior motives or whatever. It was just like, oh no, I don't agree with that. And this is why. Oh, you see it that way? Interesting. Well, I see it this way, and this is why. And blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Based on your views, what would you say in this situation? Oh, do you see how that's kind of a contradiction? Yeah, but based on your views, what would you say in this situation? Contradiction. You know what I mean? Like, it was just that kind of conversation. So I was like, okay, great, done. So
I love it.
there we go, done. All right.
What is your favorite curse word?
Oh, fuck.
Yeah. Fuck.
God.
Love
You
that.
know you know what word I wish I could say, and I still can't say it to this day? It's that C word. Because like you go to Australia, you go like to the UK, and they use that C word all the time. And that one, I bet you it would feel good to just say that one, but I don't think I'll ever get there. But when I see people that use it all the time, I'm thrown for a second, and then I'm like, yeah,
Bravo.
that's good job.
I
So,
agree.
yeah. Oh, but yeah,
Fuck is the best. Fuck
it
is the
really
best.
is. It really is.
What sound or noise do you love? What sound or noise do you love?
Oh, birds.
Yeah.
Any nature sounds, like not a bear, like, but like just like soft, gentle nature sounds. Like I love in the spring to just like sit outside and just drink my coffee, or late at night sit outside and smoke a cigar, which is also a new thing.
Nice.
Not because I like smoking, but a cigar forces you to like sit still and
Still.
do nothing for like an hour.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like holding a cigar. You know what I mean? I love those nature sounds. I have a feeling I know what the next question is. Go ahead.
What sound or noise do you hate?
You know that sound that someone makes, like, it's almost like a smacking sound when they're chewing, but like,
Oh, yes.
wait, do you still hate the sound of like chips crunching? Like,
Yes.
okay, great. You know that sound when like someone like just opens their mouth and you hear like the saliva.
Oh, yeah.
I
I'm with
cannot
you.
stand that sound.
I'm with you.
I
I am
hate
with
it.
you. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
You know what? So, so the tricky part about this question is like to attempt. So,
Yeah.
so I always wanted to go into law,
Yeah.
because I feel like the better understanding you have of the law, the better you understand how to use it to work for you. I think the law is designed in this ambiguous way that if you have the resources around you, you can make every law work for you, or against you, right? So I always wanted to go into law because, especially with education and things, I thought there was so much law information that people just needed, and I wanted to help in that way. But as I get older, I realized, you know what? I'm not going to law school. I just have to work to help people in this way. But I did, during the pandemic, I did study for the LSAT and take the LSAT and apply to law schools. And if the pandemic hadn't gone on for so long, thank goodness it did, because I'd be in school. Had it not gone on for so long, and had I not had no income for so long, I would probably be in law school right now.
Wow.
And the reason I said no is because I was like, dang, I haven't worked for 2 years. And if I go to law school now, that's definitely another full year that I'm not working. And in that second year of law school, I can maybe work part-time. Can I afford 2 more years of no income? Nope. Bad idea. Moving on. Right. So I didn't go to law school. So, but originally I would have said, if there was a profession, that would have been the world that I would have navigated. But I have to change the answer because I've now decided that I'm never going to law school. Right. So based on the question that you just asked, if there is another profession, what would it be? And I know this answer. So a few years ago, I started being asked to do like some public speaking events. And not just about theater, but just about life and how you navigate and how you deal with struggles and fear and failure and success and all that kind of good stuff, and how you look at the world. Done a few public speaking events like that. And just recently, after reading that book, Let Them, you know, that book talking about Let Them, I read that. I think public speaking in that way is the next journey, you know, and the writer of the book really talked about that, you know, in their journey as well. And I was reading it and like going back, and I was like, I know you're using this as an example, but what you don't know is I'm actually taking notes.
Right.
As reading the book, I was like, I know you're using this as an example of, you know, how we can let them and do whatever, but I'm actually taking notes on how you became a public speaker. You know what I mean? Like really, I literally like writing down notes and researching
Yeah.
things, kind of good stuff. So, yeah, I realized
Love
that was
it.
because even when I took the LSATs, right, to get into to apply to get into law schools. So it's a timed test.
Yeah.
Right, with all this stuff, and there's this whole section where you're reading these scenarios and learning stuff and then answering questions later. And it's all this stuff to fuck with your mind. I should have been just focusing on the fact that I'm taking this test, but there were certain things I read during the test or like certain cases and things that I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And like I'm taking mental notes on this for my own life instead of just taking the test, right? And I was just, and when I did some public speaking, some of those things from that LSAT test came up, the information I delivered, and I was just like, the universe put me in front of that test this time to get this information that I can now share with other people. This is amazing, right? So like little things like that. So I was like,
I love it.
be the path. And if I go back to being old Arbender, the one that died, whatever, old Arbender, just allowing the universe to take me where I need to go, I think the universe is taking me on that path. So
Oh yeah.
that's what I think. Done.
And your final question
Yes.
that Bernard Pivot and James Lipton want to know: if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
If heaven exists,
Yeah.
what would I like to hear God say when I arrive at the pearly gates? One answer or two?
Whatever you want. It's an open-ended question.
Ooh. I'm torn. One is selfish. One is very selfish. Which is like something like well done. Right?
Yeah.
But if heaven is this place, and I'll tell you in a second. If heaven is this place, I would really want God to ask me who I want in my heaven.
Wow.
Because I think the idea that like all these people are in your heaven where you have to be now for eternity. I think there are some people that I selfishly want to remember them in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't want to see them for eternity.
Yeah.
Like, I think, you know what I mean? Like some of that's me being like, I don't ever want to see you. And some of that's also being like the you that I now envision in my mind, which may not be you, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I would rather live with that memory.
Yeah.
Instead of who you truly are and your authentic self in heaven. So I would love to be able to get a list and check who I need to see in my heaven.
So basically, Arbender's saying, God, give me your little notebook there. I'm going to write down a list, and then you can let these people in.
Yeah, into my heaven, right? Because like, I would also assume that if heaven is, you know, what we think it is, I think what heaven ends up being and who's there should be different for every single human.
Agreed. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If it's your best place in the world, right? Your best place may be a place where you can swim all the time. I don't want to do that. My best place is going to be where I can sit in nature all the time. You know what I mean? So like,
Yep.
let me create it. You know, the Mormons got part right where they're like, you know, who's on my planet? Yeah.
Agreed.
So yeah.
Well, my friend, I could have talked to you forever. And I'm sure there will be a time down the road where I'll be like, you know what? I need to talk to Arbender again for the show. So there's already several of those guests, by the way, that I was like, oh my God, let's make this a 2 or 3-parter. Because you're just wonderful. And I am so thankful that you are in my life. I love you. I will always love you. I cannot function without you. My wife loves you, even though she's never gotten to meet you yet. But you're everything to me. So thank you.
To this day, I'll still never turn on the television when your baseball teams are playing because I don't want to ruin that again. Remember when I ruined that I was like,
yes. All right, my friend. I love you. I'm going to tell you I love you, and I'll see you soon.
Bye. I love you too. Take care.
I have no fucks left. No, no. I have no fucks, right? Oh, oh. I have no fucks left. No, no.
Well,
So fuck
that
off. I'm
is
busy.
it. That is all she wrote. The end of yet another episode of No Fucks Left. We did it. We did it. I thank you so much. Wasn't that interview with Arbender amazing? He's one of the best, isn't he? I'm sure that Dylan Efron is probably just as cool as my good friend Arbender. And what else did we learn today? We learned that I'm ecstatic for the Traitors finale results, that all the faithfuls won. Again, another spoiler, sorry. And we learned that I really, really like Gabby and Dylan, and that I love TikTok. I really love TikTok. Again, words I never would have thought I would have said. So TikTok, if you're listening, I'll do ads for you. Give me some money. But until next week, when we have another new episode, you know what to do. Be sure to take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and say it with me. Always lead with love. Until next week, take care.
I have no
Bye-bye.
fucks left. No, no. So fuck off. I'm
No
busy.
Fucks Left is a presentation of Transplendent Media. The host and creator is Landon Shaw. Logo and graphic design by Wally Spence. Our intern and project manager is Ryan Balmer. If you'd like to interact or connect with the show, be sure to visit our website at nofucksleftpod.com. That's nofucksleftpod.com. As always, you can always click on any of the links in the program notes to find out more information about the show, Landon, and our guests. Thanks.
Piss off. Not sorry. Don't cry.